York's very own muscle building coaches, Anthony Bevilacqua and Pete Kacharian, proudly present to you New York Muscle Radio.
Grandma got run over by a reindeer, walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe.
What's up, guys? New York Muscle Radio's 12 Days of Fitness podcast. We're bringing back all the classic podcasts we've ever done for you guys. And in today's episode, we're discussing our top 10 arm growth tips. New York Muscle Radio is flooding your podcast feed. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, alongside my co-host, Big Pete Kacharian. And if you're a new listener, you've stumbled upon the best fitness podcast around. What's up there, Big Cly? How are you? Clown, I was going to call you.
My favorite topic, man. We're going to be talking about the arm gains today.
Yeah, this was, I don't even remember when we recorded this. This was episode number, 65.
Oh, nice. I was going to say, I bet you it's somewhere in the middle over there. So it would have been pretty close.
Yeah, number 65. We talked about arm growth. This is before the arm growth experiment.
Yeah, we definitely, we started with the basics with this one, and then we kind of took it to the next level with the arm experiment. And, you know, anybody who's used the arm experiment has definitely felt the results of, you know, the crazy style arm training that we like to do. And the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should have someone come on here and talk about the arm program, like talk about their results.
Yeah, we've had quite a few people actually reach out to us and say, like, you know, right off the bat they noticed some increases in arm measurements, which is crazy because arms are one of those things. If you're not used to training them correctly and you do start applying some of the right ways to train, you'll see results pretty much almost immediately. So it's one of those nice things to get the reward right off the bat like that. It's not like trying to increase your squat or deadlift, which takes forever.
The instant gratification, man.
Yeah, that's what everybody wants, and you know, at least we could give it to them a little bit with the arm work.
Yeah, man. So, well, in order to grow your arms, you need fuel. And speaking of fuel, I'm bringing the topic around. I noticed on your Instagram you went to look like a cool place to eat. What kind of a place was that?
Delicious, man. That was Korean barbecue, which is basically, I guess it's similar. For anybody who's not familiar with it, I guess it's similar to. It's not like hibachi where you sit at the table and everyone sits around the grill and they cook it right in front of you. It basically has the barbecue built into the table that you're sitting at. Even if you're sitting at a table for two, you have a nice little barbecue in the middle. You pick whichever meats you want. In my case, I got the. It had beef, it had pork, and it had chicken. So it had 3 different meats, and they'll bring it right to the table. They'll grill it right in front of you at the table. Put the sauces in, spices, whatever it is, and then they serve it to you. Then they start cooking the next piece of meat. So it's like you're barbecuing at home, but sitting at the table, and someone's doing it for you.
That was cool. I saw you had a drink. I'm surprised at you. You're not a drinker.
No, well, actually, it was a boys' night out. I was with my brother, and my brother's a beer drinker. I'm not really a beer drinker, but when I go out with him, we have to drink beer. So I had 1 beer after dinner, and that kind of that was my dessert. Beer.
It looked like a fruity drink, though.
No, that was what was that? I have to ask him what beer it was. I forgot. It was one of his beers. He likes the light beers, so it was one of those.
Ah, nice. That was a different place to go. I mean, it's so funny. You get into a custom of doing certain things after a while, and you go to the same kind of places to go out and eat. So it's like when you venture out to somewhere new, it's always exciting.
It really is. It's easy to get caught up and just do the same thing week after week, and then sometimes you got to go out to eat somewhere just for the new atmosphere, new place, you know. But I've been there a couple of times, and it's one of the better Korean barbecues. You've never done that before?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, in the city, in certain places, there's a bunch of them. Actually, where we go in the city, I believe there's like 10 of them, like right around in the same area. But that's like the best one. So if you go, you definitely have to go to that place.
So, would you and your brother go get hookers after?
Well, yeah, that was the plan, you know, but we had 1 beer and, you know, we had to call it a night because it was too much for us. So, you know, and the nights where we have 2, 3, 4 beers, then the hookers come out.
Oh, got it. God. All right, guys. Well, we have our December sale going on also. If you guys haven't got a chance to head on over there and pick that up, you can now. It's get the entire New York Muscle Radio library and a bottle of caffeine with free shipping for one low price. So be sure to check that out at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. I just feel like, man, either we're pumping these out because we're doing them every day, but it's been a little quiet. Just like I feel like, it's just in iTunes in general and just in anything fitness is very, very quiet this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, definitely iTunes, but as I mentioned to you before, I don't really stay on Facebook consistently all the time anyway, but I've definitely been off of it a little bit more the last couple of days or this week in general. But just looking at it now, I think this week or the last week and a half or so on every social media platform has been pretty quiet. I guess people are just, enjoying the week or so before Christmas and just during the holiday spirit and not online as much, which I guess is a good thing,
Yeah, I know. It is.
But it's funny because, if you don't pay attention to it, you realize, not much has really been going on. It's definitely been a little bit quiet.
Yeah. I like this time of year because everything is kind of more relaxed, but everything slows down. And I just kind of hate that, I hate when things kind of like, I think just in personal training, when you're a personal trainer, it's like kind of a slow time. And I mean, I stay pretty consistently busy, but still, it's just like, I hate it, Holidays. I like the holidays, but I don't know. I'm happy that they're on a Saturday and Sunday this year. Usually when they're during the week, it's too long,
Yeah, well, because then you basically lose the whole week, because everyone's taking it easy before, and then the rest of the week is off anyway. So the end of the week, and I guarantee you, once New Year's rolls around, it's gonna be the same thing, and you're gonna, everyone's gonna get their motivation back. And all right, holidays are done. Let's get back. You'll see a ton of fitness content all over the internet. Everyone's gonna be back in the gym, as we all know. And everyone's going to be motivated, which is good. You need to go through phases where you kind of take it easy a little bit and then you get motivated again, but more of a balance more so than an extreme.
Yeah, I can't wait till January 1st. I'm going to start a little bit of a diet. I've decided I'm going to do a little bit of a mini cut just to kind of change things up a little bit. I'm just, when you get to that point in your diet, you're just like so tired of eating.
Yeah, and I honestly think that that's very beneficial, even if you're in an off season or a growth phase, which obviously you're pretty much... Your goal is always just to get stronger. So for you, it doesn't necessarily make sense on the surface to just go on a diet. It's like, why would you diet? But it definitely is very beneficial when you get to that point where you've been in a long off season, when you kind of get sick of eating food, your appetite kind of goes down. Most likely your insulin sensitivity is not as good as it can be just from being on a long bulk, and a lot of times it's just really beneficial even just to do a short mini cut from even 4 to 5 6 weeks max. Even just that'll make a significant improvement to help you progress both with strength and muscle gain, just because you're gonna cut a little weight. Your insulin sensitivity is definitely going to increase from, backing off the carbs a little bit. And then your appetite's going to increase too. So all those things are really good. So, staying on an extended bulk is never a good idea.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But, I don't know. So I'm excited to start that up. And I'll probably do like 3-4 week cut.
Yeah, it's crazy. Funny. The motivation will be high right around that time, 3 or 4 weeks. And right after that, it'll start to level off and you'll want to eat more.
I don't want to diet anymore.
So usually that's a good time frame at the minimum. I mean, if you have some fat that you do want to lose, you might need a little longer, but like somebody like you, that's probably perfect.
Yeah. So let's move on to our trending topics. And I thought this one was funny because it kind of went a little viral. So it was basically a video of someone who I actually competed with. His name is Dan something or other, Wyrich. He solves a Rubik's Cube while doing a 35-second pause squat with 350 pounds. I think. Yeah. And he he unracks the bar. He's got the Rubik's Cube in his hand. He squats down, pauses, solves the Rubik's Cube, stands up, and then racks it.
Yeah. That was, I actually have to, a pause squat for 35 seconds with 350 pounds that's very, very, very hard to do, and it's very impressive. But the funny thing is the 35-second solving of the Rubik's Cube, whether he was under a squat bar or not, is probably the most impressive thing out of the whole
I don't think that's impressive, though. I think that everybody's doing something to go viral online, and he's got a Rubik's Cube in his hand. Dude, the bar is like spinning on his back. And I don't know. I think it's ridiculous.
No, I think it's ridiculous, but I think that the 35-second Rubik's Cube solving was pretty impressive. I've never solved a Rubik's Cube in my life, and he solved it in 35 seconds.
He probably had it already set up to solve, you know?
I don't know if you could. I don't know how you could do that. Have you ever been able to solve a Rubik's cube?
I never tried.
I mean, I haven't tried in years, but when I did, it was the hardest thing I ever tried in my life.
Yeah, I don't know. So this is the stuff that goes viral online.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. That's what it takes. Everyone wants to see something interesting. They give you 35 seconds of entertainment. So, I mean, I guess it's good and it's bad. I mean, people want to see some interesting stuff, and I guess it was interesting. At least I give him credit for thinking outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really safe, man. I don't know.
No, it's
someone's
definitely
gonna see that, and
it's definitely not safe.
definitely not safe.
No.
I don't know, but this is the stuff that goes viral online, and I'll never understand this. But this is the power of the internet, I guess, right?
I believe the conclusion we've came to is this is not New York Muscle Radio approved, guys. Do not do that.
Yeah. Yes. Do not. Do not. All right. Let's take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back with the top 10 tips for arm growth.
But I'll tell you what, when I'm done, my biceps are humongous. Humongous. Like that, bang!
My name is Anthony Bevilacqua, and I'm the host of New York Muscle Radio podcast. My arms have been a weak point for years. When I started training, my arms measured 11 inches. Even after many years of hardcore training, nothing would get them to grow. With the help of my co-host, Big Pete, we set out on a mission to gain 1 solid inch to my arms in 12 weeks.
In the greatest experiment of all.
12 weeks later, this program finally helped me get 18-inch arms. The 12-week arm experiment, the ultimate arm growth program, ebook, the audio book, and the workout video. Pick up your copy now on NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. All right, guys, we're back. New York Muscle Radio, episode number 65. And we got today's episode is the top 10 tips for arm growth. Pete, are you alive on the other end, bud?
I think we're doing good, man. Anthony said I was feeling a little bit tired, so I cracked out the energy drink, which I'm going to start sipping on now. So I'm ready to go.
Look how happy you are that you got that sound quality perfect on that snap open.
How did it sound, huh?
It sounded pretty good, I got to say. Your pop filter might have been a little off, but it was fine.
Can you hear me swallowing it?
Yes.
It tastes good going down. We're going to see as this show progresses, I'm definitely going to get a little bit more animated because caffeine definitely, my body's doesn't work well with caffeine. So in a good way, that'll help out this podcast.
So now we got to ask this question because everyone's going to want to know. Pete, what are you drinking?
Well, right now specifically, I'm drinking a Monster Zero Ultra, which is my favorite Monster. But
is it because it's zero?
No, I mean, there's a bunch of different 0-calorie ones, but this one tastes like a Sprite. So I like carbonated drinks. They have some that are not carbonated. That's my favorite flavor. But the last one I drank was a Rockstar, which was pretty good too. But that tastes just like Red Bull.
Tasted exactly like Red Bull with me.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a little bit different. This one tastes like soda. So this is a good one. I was gonna get some coffee because I feel like the caffeine in coffee for whatever reason is stronger than anything else for me at least. But Monster will do tonight.
It's gonna have to do, big guy. But tonight's an easy topic for you. It's today's podcast, and my dog's joining in on this conversation.
See, this is why you got to be here in the studio.
I know. It's all right. My dog wants to talk about top 10 tips for arm growth. That's what we're going to talk about today. That's what we're going to cover. So let's get right into it. So, of course, the dogs, they're excited about this episode as much as I am. So today's podcast is something that I guess my co-host is known for, his big Synthol arms. So I thought it would be a good podcast to throw him in the ringer on this one. Although I've been bringing up my arms and they're, well, according to Pete, my arms like 20 inches in tape measure, right, Pete?
Well, if they were mine, yeah.
Yeah. And then you remeasure them and they're like 14.
Yeah, I mean, measurements don't really mean anything anyway. Everyone gets kind of caught up on the number. It's always proportion. I mean, my
that's
arms.
Fucking bullshit, man. Because when you have a 17, 18-inch arm, you have a fucking big arm.
Oh yeah, it's a big arm, but on some people, a 17-inch arm might not look that big. On someone else, it might look huge.
Yeah, it'd be like 300 pounds for it to look like nothing. Come on, man.
I'm saying
17-inch arm is big, bro.
There's 17-inch arms on guys who are about like 5'6", and that looks big. Somebody who's over 6 foot, 17-inch arm just looks decently big.
Nah, but it still looks big, man. Come on, you could. When someone's arms are 16 plus, you can notice a difference. When they're not 16, you don't notice. Trust me, I know.
How big are those arms?
Mine? They're like 40
Yeah.
inches.
40?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
look like one of those guys on Instagram, you know, the ones that have the synthol everywhere, and then the arms are like, 3 times the size of their head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. All right, so let's get into this. Let's start out with step number 1. With tip number 1.
Yes. Step number 1 would be go to the gym, but let's get to tip number 1.
Yeah, before we even continue on with this podcast, we just want to let you guys know. Obviously, this is all these things take into consideration. Obviously to gain muscle, you need to be in a caloric surplus. So you need to be eating more calories. You have to be knowing how many calories you're eating. You have to be working out, consistently. You can't just, I want bigger arms, so let me listen to what they say and just do that. No, you have to have the basics tackled first. If you don't have the basics down packed, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, this is just, we're assuming that you have your nutrition covered and everything else. And then, just the one variable we're leaving up to it is the training. So that's what we're going to talk about.
All right, so tip number 1, create the most tension on the target muscle as possible. So go ahead, big guy.
Yeah, so this is one that's definitely misunderstood. Because we're talking about tension here. We're not talking about weight. We're not talking about feeling it. We're talking about the actual amount of tension placed on the muscle. So especially people who are caught up on lifting heavier all the time, they associate that with what we're talking about, but we're not actually talking about weight. Weight is definitely a way to place more tension on the muscle. So if you're doing a bicep curl with 50 pounds and then you do a bicep curl with 100 pounds, there's definitely going to be more tension on the bicep. But you can place more tension on the bicep not by using heavier weights. You could even do it actually by using less weights depending on the exercise you're doing. So just to give you like an example, if you're doing maybe a incline dumbbell curl with 25-pound dumbbells, there might be a decent amount of tension on the biceps. Now, if you stand up and you do standing dumbbell curls and you're able to do 50 pounds, when you get to the top for peak contraction, you're actually placing a lot more tension on the muscle. Now, if you can find certain exercises where you place more tension on the muscle, you're going to create more overload, whether the weight is high or not. So another example would be Anthony likes to use concentration curls for that's his favorite bicep exercise, right?
Yep.
One of them at least.
The only one.
Yeah. So
We'll
I prefer standing dumbbell curls over concentration curls. And when I do standing dumbbell curls,
dumbbell swings.
Yeah, standing. You see, that's a perfect example right there. That's what I was going to get into. Now, my form on a dumbbell curl has a lot of momentum. I definitely wouldn't call it a cheat curl, but there's definitely
I wouldn't call it a curl either.
It's definitely somewhere in between. But something like a concentration curl, you really can't cheat. You really can't use, you can use momentum, but if you're doing the exercise correctly, it's a pretty straightforward, just bicep contraction. Now, I can do dumbbell curls with about 70 pounds with fairly loose form. And on a concentration curl, I can only use maybe like 50 pounds if I'm lucky. Even that's pretty heavy for me. And, in theory, if I'm isolating the bicep more, there should be more tension on the concentration curl. But for me, when I'm able to get the dumbbell into the position for the curl during a standing dumbbell curl at peak contraction, there's a lot more tension on the bicep than for me doing a concentration curl. So it's all about finding the right angle that you can place as much tension on that muscle. So it's not necessarily about the extra weight. I've even taken it a step further, and if I lower the weight and do maybe 40 or 50 pounds, but do them in a seated position where there's no momentum, but I could put it in that same contracted position, I actually feel more tension on the biceps doing that than just standing. So you want to pick the exercise where you're able to put yourself in that position where you can place the most tension on the biceps. For me, absolutely, it's not doing a concentration curl. For Anthony, I've seen it. It seems to work much better for him. So that's going to come down to every individual. Some people, depending on their structure, I think people with longer limbs don't do well with stuff like a dumbbell curl or a barbell curl. They might do better with something like a preacher curl or a concentration curl. And you could see the difference when they're training too, and you could feel it. So, it's all about extra tension. It's not necessarily about extra weight. I could throw another 20 pounds on the bar, but if I'm not placing as much tension on the muscle, I'm not getting it done.
Wait, so now I have a question. So you said you have to create the most tension on the muscle. So you said you feel dumbbell curls more in the seated position, but standing dumbbell curls are your favorite exercise. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
if you feel it, if creating more tension is the goal and you feel it more seated, why wouldn't seated be your best bicep builder then?
That's a good point too. That's taking it a little bit, a little bit further. I don't really feel that one of them are better than the other, to be honest with you. Standing, the one advantage obviously is you can use more muscle. So in theory, you could actually create more tension that way. But again, it all comes down to the actual form you're using. So it's a little bit of a gray area. So if you're doing seated dumbbell curls with perfect form at 40 pounds, let's just say, and you're doing standing dumbbell curls with 70 pounds, theoretically, 70 pounds, you can have a lot more tension. But if your form is off completely, you're not going to be applying all that tension to the muscle. So it's more of a gray area and you have to learn how to use the form. So I feel like to create the same amount of tension for me with a standing dumbbell curl, it might take 70 pounds. But when I'm seated, I could actually get it done with a 40-pound dumbbell. So if that makes any sense, you're using two different weights but creating the same amount of tension on the muscle.
So wouldn't overall, I'm just playing devil's advocate with you. Wouldn't it be better for you to do this, focus on seated dumbbell curls then? Because then you'd be creating more tension with a little less weight so you can kind of build up in that exercise?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be better?
I actually agree, and I have been doing pretty much exclusively seated dumbbell curls lately. Just because I got to the point, like I said, where I was doing dumbbell curls standing and I was doing them with 70 pounds, and it's just a little bit unnecessary, to be honest with you. For dumbbell curls to be having to swing around 70-pound dumbbells, and if I could get it done with 40 pounds,
You're talking to the wrong guy here,
I
but
get it done with 40. Yeah, I know this guy does. He does concentration curls with 70-pound dumbbells,
85.
right? Yeah, you see, that's. I mean, we could go right into that, talking about what you do with the.
Well,
with
actually,
the
I want to touch on
concentration
something
curls.
too, because remember, this is about arms, so we're not just specifically talking about biceps.
Right.
We're also talking about triceps, and I feel like create the most tension on the target muscle as possible definitely is the most important when it comes to tricep training.
Yeah.
Because triceps are one of those exercises where they're used a lot with compound movements, and you really got to focus on them when you're training them. So you need to create the most tension when you're using the certain exercises. And a lot of people think close grip bench press, and we're going to get into this a little later, but a lot of people think that close grip bench press is a great exercise for tricep, and it is, but for me personally, I feel like it creates a lot more tension on my chest than it does on my tricep. So for me, it doesn't put enough tension on my target muscle as I need. So
Right.
I think with triceps is one of those exercises that you really need to feel. Bicep curls, on the other hand, are a little different because any curl position, you're still going to put tension on that bicep. So, I mean, not in every case, and I'm going to get into this in a little bit, but you
Yeah,
have
I don't
anything to add about
honestly.
triceps with that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because to be honest with you, I don't even consider close grip bench press a tricep exercise. To me, that's a chest exercise. I mean, yeah, you're narrowing the grip. You're going to incorporate more triceps, but you're not taking your chest out of the movement. There's no way. Your chest is still going to be the primary mover. You're just going to incorporate more triceps into your bench. So I don't consider that something you should do on an arm day or a day that you're not training chest. It never did anything for my triceps, me personally, and I could place much more, exactly what we're talking about. I could place much more tension on my triceps using doing a skull crusher or doing a press down,
Yeah, I mean, again, and that's going to vary depending on you and the angles that you use to work them at, and it's going to take a little time to figure that out. But the next step is actually the next tip. I keep saying step, but the next tip is curls, 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 and more curls. So now this one's mine. This is my tip here. So now I think it's very important to find out which exercise works better for you. Now for me, for biceps, I had a hard time isolating them in any movement that I did, whether it's preacher curl, cable curls, what other movements? Barbell curls, standing barbell curls. Whenever I did any type of other curl movement, I really felt a lot, going back to the first tip, create the most tension in the target muscles. Whenever I did any other type of curl, I always felt it in my forearms more so than I did my biceps. And I noticed this a lot during my training. So I said, okay, well, how am I going to eliminate my forearms from the equation? And, apparently everyone says you have to, if you want bigger biceps, you have to curl. You have to do barbell curls. Standing barbell curls are a must. Well, for me, they were doing nothing. I felt that, I never really felt, I got a pump in my bicep, but it was never anything crazy. I remember I used to feel a little bit in my delts, a little bit, and mostly in my forearms. So I said, okay, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to use straps. So I got my Versa grips, which I love those. If you guys don't know what Versa grips are, they're probably the best straps you can ever get. Pete doesn't like them.
I was gonna say I used them once and I wasn't a huge fan, but apparently people like them.
You have those big bulky ones. I don't know how you use those. It takes more of your forearm to hold on to those things than it does anything else.
Yeah, man, I use some old school straps. They're really big, but they're heavy duty. I've had the same pair for probably like 4 years now.
Wait, do they say Pete on them?
No, my gym bag says Pete on it, though. That's a funny story, though, because I didn't buy it. It was a gift. So someone asked me about that the other day.
Anyway, so I started to use my Versa grips doing curls. And it made a little bit of a difference because it definitely helped me to hold onto the bar a little bit more. So I was able to make a little more tension in the bicep, but still, it was one of those things where I was like, I still don't feel it. And I actually wasn't enjoying bicep training for a while. I was like, I'm not really getting anything out of this. I'm feeling it more in my forearm. I don't really feel my bicep working. And I've tried everything, preacher curls, dumbbell preacher curls, and nothing. So I never understood it. So one day, I decided to do a concentration curl. I'm like, whatever, I'll try these. And lo and behold, I think it's just the angle for me. I don't know what it is. I have no rhyme or reason why this works for me. I got a huge pump in my bicep. Huge. So I said, well, if I'm feeling this in the target area, that's what I'm going to do. So I just started focusing straight on concentration curls. Now, Pete, why don't you tell him what happened when we did arms one day? You know what day I'm talking about.
What the one day that I tried hanging with you on concentration curls?
No. The day that we did, remember when you were doing the barbell curls, and when you were training me for a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So we were training. It was just a bodybuilding type shoulder and arm workout. And Anthony said, you know what? Let's just train how you train arms. And I kind of took him through my bicep workout, which is I start off usually with a barbell curl, very very basic, and start out really light and just pump a lot of blood into the muscle. And I told them that too. If you don't usually feel barbell curls in the muscle, the biceps, the first set or two, you should go really light and just focus on just contracting the biceps so that you get all that blood in there, and that'll usually help you, feel it in a target muscle group. And, he started following me along, and the same thing he said happened again, and he just wasn't feeling it in the biceps. He went back to his old thing. He said, you know what, I'm going to try concentration curls. Concentration curls gave him a huge pump, and I saw it. We did like 2 or 3 sets of barbell curls exactly the way I told him to do it, and my arms were blowing up. Even I started off with just the bar. I could honestly get a huge pump just with the bar, and he 2 or 3 sets in had no pump. Then moved over to concentration curls, his arms blew up. So there's something to be said about that. You have to find the right exercise for your structure, and it's going to be the one where you can place the most amount of tension. Obviously, barbell curls didn't work for him.
Yeah, so like he said, and I witnessed the reverse for him, because when he was doing the concentration curls, he didn't feel anything in his bicep. And then when he did the barbell curls, his arms blew up. So it just goes to show you. I mean, I think for me, concentration curls it takes my shoulder out of the equation, and the angle that I'm at when you do a concentration curl. I do them old school like Arnold used to do, just straight up bent over. I think that also takes the forearm out of the equation because your arm is turned, and I just get a huge pump, and my arm development has since changed since doing that. So I definitely recommend concentration curls as a mass building movement for the biceps. I think if you learn to do them correctly, if you try to do them how Arnold did them, standing, bend over, keep your arm pinned straight, keep the elbow pointed out, you're really going to see a lot of growth in the bicep, because it really does. You could still swing heavy weight, but I think that goes back to what Pete says. Once you get a better mind-muscle connection, you could kind of swing and heave a little bit more weight up and really feel a good contraction and a good stretch on the bottom. So for me, concentration curls, number 1 bicep movement for mass, 100%. I've done all the way up. The most I've ever done was 85 pounds with them, and you've seen me doing that. What'd you think of the form?
His form is perfect. I was trying to hang with him with a 60-pound dumbbell, and I was cheating. And he always jokes because my arms are bigger, but his arm, I mean, strength-wise, he's doing concentration curls with 80 pounds. That's no joke. I don't know if anybody's ever done concentration curls with dumbbells and compared them to what they can normally curl. But like I said, I regularly can dumbbell curl 70 pounds. Concentration curl, he's going 15 pounds heavier than me. I couldn't hang with him. But, again, those exercises didn't work for me. They worked for him. So, that's something to be said. He says concentration curl is a mass builder for him. And that goes to show you there's really no rules. Concentration curl by bodybuilding definition is just a little pump exercise. But if he could place the most amount of tension and the most overload on his muscle using that exercise, then that's a mass builder for him.
Yeah, give it a try, guys. You will not regret it, I promise. All right, we're going to move on to tip number 3, and this is also my tip, blood flow restriction training. Blood flow restriction training, we've talked about this in other podcasts, but blood flow restriction training for me has definitely improved my arm development. And oddly enough, I usually don't do a lot of different bicep movements, which we're going to get into that a little later as well. I strictly use concentration curls for everything. If I'm doing blood flow restriction training, I'm just using concentration curls. If I'm doing regular curls, I'm doing concentration curls. So I don't do any other movement but concentration curls. So when I do blood flow restriction training, actually what I do is, because I want to keep a little more tension on my bicep by it, I actually put my leg up on something so my leg is a little higher. I'm also in a seated position. And I pin my arm against my leg, and I keep it nice and strict, doing a curl that way. And I feel that a lot. So when I mix that with blood flow restriction training, I use very lightweight. I'm only using like 25 pounds or so for this. The pump is tremendous, and I've noticed a lot of development using blood flow restriction training. So I'm able to utilize heavy concentration curls, and I'm able to do light blood flow restriction training for also that little bit of pump. So I like blood flow restriction training. I think it's very, very good. You can recruit all your muscles fiber using it and only using lightweight. So for someone who's focusing on bringing up other body parts as well, blood flow restriction training might help you bring up your arms as well, while not taking away from that. So especially with powerlifting, you don't want anything to take away from another, especially you're focusing on the 3 lifts. So if I throw in blood flow restriction training, I'm just able to get in more volume, and it's the pump is ridiculous with it. What did you think of blood flow restriction training?
It's funny because I really don't have too much of an input based on experience, because I've only done blood flow restriction training just once. And it might have been better to do it on a muscle group that was actually a lagging muscle group, or a muscle group that I don't normally get a good pump on. You know, if I did it on something maybe for like calves or hamstrings or something, it might have been better.
When I get my leg press for my gym, I'm going to have you do it for calves.
I might try. I mean, I would love to try it for calves, but so the funny thing is my one experience with blood flow restriction training was on arm day, and I think we just did biceps, and Anthony had me doing something ridiculous. He tied those things on me. I felt like I was like Ultimate Warrior with those things around my arms. And we did the I go you go principle for curls, which is basically, if anybody doesn't know, you do a set, you pass it to your training partner, he does a set, then when he's done, you go right again. So it's very, very little rest period. And I just remember being in excruciating pain with the amount of pump. My skin actually started turning a little bit blue. Yeah,
that's normal actually.
Yeah, and it was funny because I remember we shot a video of it, and I was watching it recently, and we would use it like after we did 2 different exercises. When I used the second exercise, when we did the I go you go with the dumbbell curls, we were using 15-pound dumbbells, and
you were crying.
I was actually like screaming. I was doing reps, just going And it was funny because somebody in the back of the video was laughing, going, "That's the heaviest 15 pounds ever." And it was so true, because 15 pounds never felt heavier. So, it definitely forces you to use light weights, and, it clearly shows that you'll get the same results as you would with the heavier weights, but force you to use lighter weights. So for recovery purposes, that definitely helps. Never have actually, spent a lot of time using it to tell you if you get anything out of it long term, but, definitely there's something to it if you want to use lighter weights to get the same training effect.
I use it twice a week for biceps and twice a week for triceps, because I do treat them as separate muscle groups the way my training is broken down. And we should tell people how to use it. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to tie a tourniquet high up on the arms, pretty much where your shoulder ends and where your arms begin. You're going to get a tourniquet up there. You're going to pull the tourniquet. You can get a tourniquet off Amazon. If you type in like tourniquet, you'll find the little ones with the pull tabs. Basically put one on each arm, high up, right after the shoulder. Pull it nice and tight. You want it tight enough where it's not excruciating painful, but you feel it on there. You feel the tightness. And basically what you're going to be doing is you could do this any way you see fit. I mean, there's protocols out there that say 20 reps, 15, 15, 15. I like to do straight, either 3 to 5 sets of straight 12 reps across the board. And I use a moderate weight. I'm definitely not one of those guys that use, light weight with it. I like to use like a moderate weight with it. So, I'll be using something that's semi-heavy. Like I said, I use it with concentration curls, and I'm using 25 pounds, and I'm doing 4 sets, 12 reps. And you take like anywhere between 30 seconds to 45 seconds in between rest, in between each set. So that's pretty much the protocol for blood flow restriction training. and it definitely works. So give it a try. And Pete, we got to try it on calves, and you got to let me know.
Yeah,
what you see.
I think it's a great technique to use on muscle groups that you don't get a good pump on, and that's what I was talking about a little bit in the beginning of this show too. Just in general, those muscle groups that you have that respond well, if you ever notice, they generally get a pump very easily. And those lagging muscle groups usually have a harder time getting a pump. So using something like blood flow restriction training on lagging muscle groups that you don't get a good pump on is definitely a good idea. So if you're going to experiment with it, definitely try it on those muscle groups because the pump you get from it is insane. Like I said, biceps and arms in general is not really something I would need blood flow restriction training on. So definitely those muscle groups that you don't get great pumps on, like for me, calves, and at the same time, my calves are a lagging muscle group. So there's something to be said about that.
All right, let's move on to the next tip. Tip number 4, train them frequently. This is a good one. And actually what I do, I'm utilizing a daily undulating periodization protocol with squats, deadlifts, and bench press. As most of you guys know, I'm a competitive power lifter, and that's pretty much the way my training has been broken down. But I've been seeing great gains on it as far as overall physique development and whatnot. So I recommend utilizing that approach for a lot of things. So I decided to use that approach for more so biceps than triceps. I probably could add some triceps doing that type of approach, but right now I'm just focusing on my biceps, and I'm kind of listening to Pete, focusing on one thing at a time. So I train my biceps 3 times a week, and I utilize different rep schemes. So it makes it pretty simple because I only do concentration curls. So I just basically, the first day is anywhere between 3 to 5 sets, 8 reps. Then the second day a week is, again, 3 to 5 sets, 12 reps. And the last day is 3 to 5 sets again of 20 reps. And that's the protocol that I use. I can kind of use any kind of undulating pattern that I want. But that's what I've been doing, and it's been working good. But training them frequently, definitely a big plus. I train triceps twice a week. So I'm not trying to bring up my triceps right now. I don't think my triceps are as behind as my biceps.
Yeah, you definitely want to be training arms pretty frequently, especially more than once a week. If there's something you're trying to just keep on maintenance, then maybe once a week. But in general, if you're trying to bring them up, which is obviously what this podcast is about, you want to be training them at least twice a week. And the way Anthony's doing it's great. He's doing it 3 times a week, and he's changing up the rep scheme. And I think that's great for everything. But arms in general, I don't think you have to get too fancy with it, to be honest with you. That's definitely beneficial, but as long as you train them twice a week, even if you train them 3 times a week, that extra frequency is definitely going to help you because there's such small muscle groups that the recovery period is not as long as something like legs, where if you train really hard on Monday, you might not be ready to go 100% on Wednesday. Arms, you could pretty much just keep beating them up, honestly, over and over again, and they'll recover pretty fast.
The one thing that I think you'll have a little trouble with is going to be maybe your elbow joints. I can see that becoming an issue. But again, that's going to be very dependent on the person. And that's where you could kind of utilize, blood flow restriction training somewhere in there. That's why I kind of throw that in there. Because I am doing, when I do heavy curls, 8 reps, the other day I used 85 pounds for 8 reps. So it's not like it's lightweight that I'm using by any means. So then when I do a blood flow restriction training, after my heavy movements, I'm getting in more volume that way. So just gotta keeping a good eye out on your joints and make sure that, you're giving your joints time to recover. But yeah, definitely I recommend, and I'm assuming my co-host does, 2 to 3 times a week for body parts like that, for arms.
Yep, 100% agreed.
All right, tip number 5, train closer to failure than other body parts. Go ahead, big guy, this is your tip.
Yeah, this is a good one because I've always been an advocate of not training to failure, at least relentlessly. A lot of people have the misconception that you have to train to failure to make any type of progress, when that's completely, it couldn't be further from the truth. You could never train to failure and make great progress, but the fact is there's certain muscle groups that you should definitely train closer to failure or to failure altogether, and others you should honestly probably just avoid or take a step back with it. Something like legs or squats, especially if you're training them frequently 2-3 times a week, you definitely want to be a little cautious of training to failure, just because the recovery period is going to be so long. There's a lot more neural fatigue that comes from something like squatting, so your recovery period is going to be a lot slower. Your performance is going to drop off. Something like doing a bicep curl or a tricep extension, you can train it to failure and then rest 2 minutes, probably get the same amount of reps on the next set. and then maybe do another one, before you start to fatigue really from it. And I'm talking like all out to failure to where you can't complete another rep. If you do something like that on squats, if you do 405 for 5 on a squat, it's a failure. The next set, you might only get 2 or 3, even if you rest 2 or 3 minutes. So there's a lot more of a neural fatigue that you get from some of these big compound movements. So isolation movements in general, you can definitely take them a lot closer to failure or train them to failure altogether, just because you're not going to have that type of fatigue from that actual set, and it's not going to burn out your nervous system as much. Something like taking a bicep curl to failure is nowhere near taking a heavy squat set to failure. So in general, the more frequently you train a muscle, the more you want to take it a little bit less close to failure. But isolation movements are kind of the exception to that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I really have nothing to add to that because I think you're right on that. All right, moving on. Tip number 6. Limit exercise selection. And we went over this already. Do you have to add anything to it?
There's a little more you could add to it, because I think a lot of people have the misconception for muscle groups that you want to bring up that you have to do like every exercise under the sun. If let's say your back is a muscle group that you really need to bring up, you don't have big, thick, wide lats. If you just do pull-ups, is that really going to make your whole back development grow? Not really. You'll definitely get wider. But if you're not doing deadlifts on top of it and some barbell rows, you're really not going to develop those lumbar muscles, the thick rhomboids, everything like that. So you really need to focus on, if someone said my back wasn't developed, I'd say, and they asked me to focus on the basics, I would say, okay, make sure you're deadlifting, make sure you're rowing, make sure you're doing some type of vertical pulling movement. So a pull-up is great. You want to get all 3 of those done. If you're training arms, someone says, listen, my biceps lack. I'm not going to tell them, okay, make sure you do barbell curls, make sure you do preacher curls, make sure you do hammer curls, and make sure you do concentration curls, which is what you see in like all the magazines. Make sure you hit the brachialis muscle, the bicep muscle, and, hit the forearms. You really can honestly build big arms just with one exercise. Anthony says that he uses concentration curls. If I had to just use a barbell curl, I could build big biceps. I honestly spent 90% of my time training just doing dumbbell curls and barbell curls for biceps. And, triceps, honestly, press downs and skull crushers. So it's like 2 exercises for me. But if I had to just pick one, I could get it done with just one.
I feel like press downs are a good movement for me for triceps. I feel that a lot of my triceps, it's not fatiguing. I like dumbbell skull crushers a lot, but I feel like those kind of fatigue a little bit more. I feel like I could do press downs for days and make progress on it because I get a really good pump from them. And, and that and overhead press with one dumbbell, I find I get a lot of pump out of that one. So those are my 2 tricep exercises that I do. But I don't go crazy with exercise selection like Pete said. You don't have to hit muscles from all different kinds of angles to get the results. That's not necessarily true. And actually, I did that a lot in the beginning when I first started training, and it got me nowhere. It just kind of burnt me out, and I never really saw anything from that. So limiting exercise selection is definitely something that you don't have to do. So we can move on from there. Tip number 7, focus on isolation movements. I said this before. Concentration curls for mass.
Yeah, this is a funny one because, again, this kind of goes against everything that's trending. Focus on compound movements. Forget about isolation. Just get bigger and stronger in the big 3, big 4, whatever you want to say. But for arms, I mean, there's so many people out there that follow that philosophy of just train the compound movements, lift heavy, and you could build a great physique. But honestly, people who have great arms, unless they're just genetically gifted and they're born with them, they have to do a lot of curls. They have to do a lot of isolation movements. You're not going to build huge triceps and biceps just by doing pull-ups, presses. You're going to need to do isolation movements. And I don't think there's any better exercise selection for arms than an isolation movement. There's really no compound movement that's specific for biceps. A lot of people say that things like pull-ups are great for biceps, but you're not going to actually develop your biceps significantly just doing pull-ups. So you definitely want to throw in isolations. For triceps, you can only get so far doing close grip bench presses and dips.
Yeah, I'm going to argue against, utilizing those specifically for tricep development because I've done heavy tricep movement, close grip bench press. I've done close grip bench press with 315, and I didn't see nearly as much tricep development doing that versus doing just press downs, straight on press downs or overhead dumbbell extensions. So I think you need to definitely focus on isolation movements because you have to be able to pump blood and utilize just the tissue in that area. You know, when you're using a close grip bench press, you know, and focusing a lot on that, you're going to be using your chest, you're going to be using your shoulders, and yes, that's a compound movement, but you're not going to be hitting the tricep 100% doing it that way. Like I said, I focused a lot on close grip bench press because it's a good movement. I like it. I feel it in my tries. It's not like I don't feel it in my tries, but you're not isolating your triceps using it. And you can get a far more better development isolating your triceps.
Yeah, it all comes back to the first rule that we kind of put out there, the first suggestion, which is just tension. You know, if you're doing a close grip bench press, yes, you know, maybe you're doing 315 and, you know, that amount of weight is a high load, but you can probably, and you will, place more tension on your triceps, specifically doing a 135-pound skull crusher over a 315-pound close grip bench. Yes, it's more weight, but is it more tension on the targeted muscle? Not necessarily.
Correct. I agree. I don't think we're going to add anything to that, right, big guy?
That pretty much covers it.
Sum that one up, baby. All right. Tip number, I think this is 8. No. Yeah, 8. Yep, 8. Sorry. Do them first in your workout. So if your priority is to bring up your arms, you definitely need to start utilizing them and focusing on doing them first in your workout. So a lot of people are under the misconception also that, I can't do triceps first because, you know, if I do triceps first, it's going to fatigue me on everything else. Well, then put triceps with legs and just use triceps, do triceps strictly in front of legs before you do any heavy squats or anything like that. You know, do your tricep work and just, you know, using the priority principle there and focusing on doing them first when you're fresh in your workout. And I do this too. What I usually do is I'll do biceps before I do anything else. I'll do biceps. I'll do my whole workout. And then at the end of the workout, I'll do, you know, blood flow restriction training for biceps again. You know, I'll kind of finish off with that. So I kind of get the best of both worlds. I start with it when I'm fresh. I get my heavy work in. I do my regular workout. And then at the end, I focus on my blood flow restriction training to get a good pump. And I leave the gym and my arms are swole. And I feel like big P Kacharian.
That's a great way to do it. But yeah, I mean, the thing with...
I do the same thing for triceps too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. You know, you always want to start with that muscle that you're trying to bring up. And it doesn't matter what muscle group it is, if it's a small muscle group or if it's a large muscle group. The thing is that a lot of people just don't seem to get is even if you set up your training routine optimally, there's always going to be a drop off in performance of whatever it is you're going to train later in your workout. Even if the exercises you're doing in the beginning of the workout don't affect those muscle groups. Like let's say you are training biceps on the day that you're training legs. You know, if you're going to train biceps after a leg workout, your biceps didn't get work during your leg workout, but your performance is going to drop off just from the lack of energy, the lack of motivation or whatever it is at the end of that workout. So even if you're going to do the same exercises and reps you have planned, and you can do it at the end of the workout, the amount of effort you're going to put into it, your form is going to get sloppy. You're just not going to get anything out of it. So you always want to train those in the beginning.
I think we're all guilty of that. You know, all right, we got to do arms, you know, so throw them at the end of the workout. Right. And, that same thing goes for calves, too. You know, calves always get put on the end of a workout. If they're a weak point for you, you got to put them in the beginning, you know. And I can't, you know, if I'm saying that for calves, it's the same thing for biceps. You know, for me, I want to bring on my arms, so I got to put them first. That's it. Bottom line. I got to put them first. So
yeah, I've trained arms, you know, on their own day, and I've also trained them after stuff like chest and back. You know, I've done back and biceps, chest and triceps, and I absolutely hate doing it that way. The only reason I have done it that way in the past is because if I'm putting them kind of on a maintenance mode where I'm just focusing on bringing up those other muscle groups, I'll just put them at the end of the workout because I know I'm not going to grow from it. I'm just maintaining. But my performance on curls and tricep extensions after doing all that heavy back movement and tricep and chest work, my performance, like, you know, my form sucks, you know, compared to when I'm fresh. The intensity I put into it, it's nothing compared to when it's fresh on its own day. So if this goes for any muscle group, but for arms especially, if you want to bring them up, they got to be at the beginning of your workout.
Yeah, 100%. Tip number 9, and this is my tip, deload them like any other body part. So again, going back to a little bit what we touched upon a little earlier about your joints, your elbows and stuff like that, you know, you have to let those things kind of recover. So, oh, he took another sip of the energy drink, guys.
Yeah, we're about 3/4 of the way done with this one. So
oh boy.
By the next episode, I should be wired.
All right. So, again, you definitely want to make sure you take time to deload them. You know, your biceps, your triceps, whatever, they're a muscle like any other body part. And, you know, the same way you deload your workouts, you want to make sure you're deloading and taking time to deload your biceps as well. You know, they need to recover. And from what I found, and I've been doing this a lot recently, because in the past I never really deloaded biceps. I never really took the time off them. But I'm treating biceps just like I would any other movement. I'm trying to get a better squat, so I'm squatting the same way. I progress up, I work my way up, I build fatigue in the movement, and then I taper down, I deload, and then I build back up higher. And that's kind of what I've been doing with biceps. I've been bringing them to a certain amount of fatigue, deloading them, dropping back a little bit, and then going back up. And I've noticed every time that I've deloaded, because whenever you deload, period, that's when you actualize the gains that you actually made. So every time I deload, I feel like Pete. That's kind of how I feel. So that's just a good marker that I use. I know when my arms feel big, and they feel pumped up but not doing anything. That's how I know that I'm actually, I actually made some gains that last cycle. So I definitely recommend deloading them like any other body part. Plus, the benefit you're going to get there is you're going to allow your joint to recover as well. So make sure you take your deload seriously with your bicep and tricep training as well. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
I mean, that's pretty much straightforward. Definitely, if for nothing else, definitely it's going to help with the joint, just longevity of the joints, because you can easily, overdo hitting the elbow joint, the forearms, everything like that with arm training. So
and with other movements as well. You can't forget, you're using your elbow for everything. You're bench pressing, you're using your elbow. You're pulling up, whatever, you're using your elbow. So your elbow is one of those joints that gets used a lot.
Definitely.
All right, tip number 10, and this is the last tip. And this is kind of the basic one. We kind of should have put this one first, but you always want to make sure you're training your arms with progression. You always want to make sure you're building up strength, using more weight, using more reps. That goes for any body part. You're not going to see any results if you don't train with progression. So just make sure you're doing the same thing with arms. There's a lot of misconceptions out there that say for arms, you just need to pump them up, and that's it. But, that's not the case for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it seems very straightforward, but just a lot of people just, for some reason, don't follow this advice. And, they wonder why their arms aren't growing, and they say, oh, I have the best bicep exercise. It's this like one arm spider curl or something like that, and they just put their arms in these positions where they say, look, you get much better contraction, much better mind muscle connection, and I just squeeze, and the squeeze is going to make it bigger. And, if they're doing that, let's just say they're using a 25-pound dumbbell or whatever it is. When you do all these fancy exercises, how much are you going to progress on them? Are you going to be doing this exercise with 50 pounds in a couple of months? Probably not. So you want to pick those. It comes back to the exercise selection. If you're not going to progress on it, then this exercise is probably not going to be optimal. Maybe you get this really nice pump for this one workout, but if you can't progress on this long term, it's not going to be an effective exercise. It's just like if you made your primary chest exercise a dumbbell fly. How far do you think you're going to get in your training just doing dumbbell flies? In 6 months, you're going to go from doing dumbbell flies with 50 pounds to 200 pounds? No, it's just not going to happen. You're going to hit a ceiling very low on them. So same thing with arm exercises. You want to choose the ones that you could actually progress on.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's it, man. I don't have to really say anything else. I think you need to. I mean, that's the bottom line for muscle growth. You want any muscle to respond, you have to train with progression. That's it. Bottom line. Your arms are no different.
Exactly. And, it all comes down to, again, just hammering away at it over time. You could take, this advice we're putting out here, we're putting it out here so you guys actually go apply it. So if you take this advice and you apply it over a period of time, that's when you're going to actually see the results. So it takes time, remember that, but you have to keep applying this over and over again. So that's probably another bonus tip to throw in there, that all this information, even if you just take one tip, apply it over and over again, then you see results.
All right, I'm going to summarize everything for you. So tip number 1, create the most tension on the target muscle as possible. Tip number 2, curls, 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 and more curls. Concentration curls. Best exercise for mass building. Anthony Bevilacqua at AB Fitness. Tag me when you agree. Blood flow restriction training. Use it. Train them frequently, 2 to 3 times per week. Train closer to failure than other body parts. So remember, don't treat biceps or triceps different than other body parts. Train them to failure. Closer, definitely closer than you would a bench press or a squat, but train them to failure. Limit exercise selection. Don't go crazy. Don't try to do a million different exercises to hit muscles from all different angles. Find a few that hit the muscle the best and use them and focus on progressing with them. Next tip, focus on isolation movements. Again, similar to what I just said. Use isolation movements for mass building. Don't fall into that mantra where you need to do, heavy compound movements to get results, because that's not necessarily true. Next tip, do them first in your workout. Use your arms training. If you want to bring them up, Do biceps and triceps first in your workout. Schedule your training around that and prioritize that. Tip number 9, deload them like any other body part. You want any body part to grow, you got to build up fatigue and then take some time off and then come back and hit it again. Tip number 10, train them with progression. Never forget that. They're a muscle group like anything else, and you always want to progress. Progression is the way to life, my friend.
Damn, man, I think it's you drinking the energy drink over there.
Nah, man, I'm fucking dead tired today, man.
You
I
see,
was going to say, you got to pass me one of those. I need one. I'm tired right now.
That's the difference between me and Anthony. When this guy's tired, I said this in another podcast. He thrives on harsh environments. When he's tired, man, he gets shit done. When he's got no sleep, he's got everything working against him. He's making it happen. Me, I'm like the typical person. When I'm tired, shit doesn't happen.
Actually, it's funny because I'm training in the USAPL. I'm trying to get to nationals again and qualify and do the Arnold Classic in powerlifting for USAPL. But one thing that I said I have to do is this year I definitely want to focus on making everything optimal. I want to get as strong as possible. I have to hit what I have to hit to get there. And one thing that I don't want to leave unturned this year is my recovery ability. So I said I'm going to make it a priority to get at least 8 hours of sleep a night. Now, I'm known for getting a lot less, 4 to 5 a night. And just because I'm always busy and my mind especially as it gets later, my mind wakes up a little bit and I can't go to sleep right away. So I said, you know what, if I want to get as strong as possible, I have to optimize whatever I can control. And sleep is one of those things I can't control. I could shut everything off and go to sleep. And that's what I've been doing lately. So the past couple nights the day before I got like 10 hours. I actually was able to take a nap during the day. And then last night I got 9 hours of sleep. So I'm trying this new approach where
that's very, very unnatural for Anthony.
Very.
His body is
it's
probably
weird,
not
man.
used to it.
I was in bed by 10 o'clock the other night. 10:16. You know how unheard of that is?
I know. I used to, when me and Anthony used to work out together at like 7 in the morning, I used to just get out of bed, get in my car, drive over to his house, and I used to just basically crawl into the gym. And I would be half awake, and I would tell him, "Listen, man, I'm shot. I only got like 6.5, 7 hours of sleep." And he'd look at me, and he would just have his hoodie on. He'd be warming up, and I'm like, I got like 5 hours of sleep, and I'm ready to go. So he thrives on that. So it should be interesting to see what he does when he actually sleeps. For me, that's like right off the top. I'm losing like 10% of my strength that day by getting like 6 hours of sleep. He'll just walk in and be stronger that day. So
it was funny because earlier in the week I slept like one night it was like 8.5 hours, and then the next night I was so busy that day. And the next night, I only got like 5 hours of sleep. I felt more weak the day that I got only 5 hours of sleep than I did the night of 8.
I told you, man, you thrive on harsh environment.
All right, Pete. I think it's that time, bud.
All right, guys. So this is Pete and Anthony with massive arm training tips for you guys. New York Muscle Radio, and we're out.
Enjoyed this episode of New York Muscle Radio? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, New York Muscle Radio.